What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, the super intelligent butt plug here, and we're back with episode 40 of the video game therapy series. Yeah, 40 episodes is a lot. I can't believe I've spent that much time talking to myself, quite honestly. I would say 40 hours, but it's technically not 40 hours. I mean, the videos are between 50 and like 59 minutes long. Some are like 51, some are 54. So it's probably like 35 hours, something like that. But it's certainly more than a day. So you could theoretically spend a day and a half, or 36 hours probably, pretty close to 36 hours. So a day and a half, yeah, listening to me talk about nothing. Not that anyone should ever do that, but people do stuff you shouldn't do all the time, and I'm not gonna bring examples into the mix, but take my word for it. People do stuff all the time that they should not be doing, whether they know that they shouldn't be doing it or just are too stupid. But that's besides the point. Anyway, let's get into some things today. I think today, these are kind of random, just things I've had on here forever. So I'm just going to try to put a dent in my list here because honestly, my list has been piling up. And every time I start one of these, I'm like, I don't really feel like doing, I don't feel like talking about this because I feel like I have more to say, but then I don't always get all the points I want across. And then I'll watch it later and be like, damn it. Yeah, because I watch my own videos sometimes. I think it's good to, kind of like retrain myself on my own data, just like the LLMs do. But yeah, to see whether or not I agree with myself. But I listened to what I said. And I'm like, man, I kind of missed some pretty layups there, in terms of talking points and things I could have said. So anyway, I don't really care. I'm just going to knock some stuff off my list today, starting with what I just have under the umbrella of hot takes. And I don't really know. These aren't really hot takes, I get. Well, they might be. I don't know. It depends on who you are. Everything's relative. So go fuck yourself. Investing. The idea, everybody, you got to invest. What are you doing with your money? You're investing it. Smart people, Warren Buffett, investors. Investing as a whole, I have defined it as making money without doing any of the actual work required to make the money. You're removing yourself from the hard part of making money. Now, I don't mean that there isn't any difficulty in selecting stocks and making speculative investments. Speculative investments are just that. They are speculative. And if you're right, you look like a genius. If you're wrong, you look like a dumbass. But regardless, investing, period. Picking stocks, whatever. Picking stocks, you are not doing anything. Let's say I buy Apple stocks. Okay? I buy Apple stocks, right? Because I'm a smart investor, did my due diligence, and I know that, Apple's monopoly on hardware is going to lead them to the moon. Either way, let's say Apple does go to the moon, and now my stock has tripled, and I'm just a smart investor. You didn't do anything. You didn't make a product. You didn't sell anything. Maybe you bought a MacBook, and that was your entire contribution. But you have removed you're not in the process of Apple making money as a business. You've provided nothing to Apple other than your money. Now, some might say the argument I think against me saying that investing isn't any hard work is that, well, you're putting your money at stake. There's risk involved. Right. I'm still saying that I purchase on a whim I hate bringing this example up, but it may just make sense. I purchased a lawn mowing business, okay? I have 40 employees, a bunch of trucks, a bunch of, lawn equipment, and I just buy it. And of course, I have managers that schedule the lawns, and I have clients already. I kind of have all that stuff kind of inbuilt already. But I buy the business, right, as an investment. I can make all the money that, let's say it does really well and makes a bunch of money. I still didn't mow a single fucking lawn. So I didn't do any of the hard work that's involved with actually making the money. And that is why I think there is a there's always like anytime there's any kind of investment thing, I immediately just kind of like seize up. I'm immediately like, just because I know that the investment, you're not doing anything that leads to actually producing value. You purchase the business with money, okay, but money in and of itself is not inherently valuable, right? It's just our belief and our faith in the money that makes it valuable. But you didn't mow a single lawn, and your company made a bunch of money. You didn't do any of the hard work involved. All you did was just buy it. Maybe, and again, I think the argument here is, what if you like managed it? Okay, there's maybe an argument to be had about managing, but even that, but then, you're not really a passive investor, so to speak, if you're actually managing, if you buy a business and then take over managing it. That's kind of a job. And that there's value creation in management. I'm not going to say that managers are all useless, but to me, the most value producing assets of a business are the people mowing the fucking lawn. Like the people that are out on the lawnmower. Those are the people that are producing the most value. And, ironically, they're the ones getting paid pretty much nothing. Next are like the people who schedule and manage and, keep the equipment up to date. And yeah, there's value there, right? But the last person is the one who basically spent, he spent $10 million on this lawn business and then just sits on his ass. And it's just kind of an automatic machine. It's just kind of in the background making money. And to me, that is the way I view a lot of investing, right? People spend all this time looking at stocks and this and that. And, there's, these opportunity here. This stock is undervalued. I'm going to buy this. They do all of the due diligence. They, have the knowledge. They can draw pictures on a stock graph. It's glorified guessing, really. But, you can't tell anybody who's a investment banker that they think that there's all these tricks and whatever. And if, anomalies are not anomalies, or, anomalies are anomalies. It's not just random fluctuations, which at the end of the day it's pretty random fluctuations. But they don't add any value to the business. The business does not get more valuable because the stock went up. And thus, even if the stock, like this, okay, the people that buy the stock, and when the stock goes up, the holders of the stock didn't necessarily do anything to improve the business. They just put their money out there, which again doesn't really do anything. Now the money might allow you to hire more people to mow the lawns or whatnot, but you yourself did not mow a single lawn. You yourself did not build a single computer, and you made a bunch of money off it. So to me, there seems to be something morally wrong there. I think there's obviously like a whole career and stuff around investing. So it's like, whatever. I'm like ousting those people. I don't really care, but I just have a personal like begrudgment to people that spend all this time thinking about stocks, investing, and this and that. But you didn't mow. If you're not mowing any lawns, like in my eyes, you're useless. You're not actually doing anything. Now, then you can make money, but you can't conflate the fact that you made money with, I added value. No, just because your stock portfolio went up, you did not do anything. You just bought the stock. And you could say, I did the due diligence. No, you're not doing anything. All you're doing is reading the chart, whatever. Either way, I just think investing is the act of doing nothing to provide for the business, but yet making money off of it, which, again, that's just an observation of mine. I'm not saying that I think there's, something, morally questionable about it. It should seem like the better the business does, that the people mowing the lawns should get paid more, but whatever. Either way, I just want to put that as a thought out there, that I think investing is the act of doing nothing but making money off of it. So if you're proud of that as an investor, fine. But as an engineer or as a value producer, I get a lot more satisfaction out of actually making something, doing something, mowing the lawn, even the managers who they can say, I scheduled, 10,000 lawn mowings. Sure, there's arguably value there, but the person who just kind of just who, wrote a blank check or wrote a check for something, and then all of a sudden, like, their portfolio quadrupled. Like, they didn't, I mean, so I don't know. I think just passive investment is the act of doing nothing. Now, so you can manage your investments, and that's a different thing. Like, if you buy a company and then jump in and then mess around with it, you hire people, fire people, manage this, do that. That's different. But I just think people who just literally sit there and just buy stocks on some Robinhood app you're not adding any value to society. You're just kind of sitting there and making money off of other people with your money, which, again, doesn't make me feel great that exists and is as preclusive as it is in modern society. But anyway, leaves a sour taste in my mouth. So that's my first hot take, I suppose. I'm not saying whatever. I'm not going to go any deeper on that. But the next hot take, this might be more fitting of being called a hot take. So let's see. Framing this is going to be important to make sure I don't get put on a list somewhere. Yeah, I guess I'll just whatever. So, prostitution. Okay, prostitution is the act of paying for sex with money. So you can't do that, right? I don't know I think some place just decriminalizes it. I think, I don't know, whatever. That's the act. It's illegal, or it's been illegal. I don't really know. People do it. It's very frowned upon, et cetera, et cetera. So paying for sex with money is illegal. On the other side of that, paying for sex with companionship or dinner or other things that isn't the direct exchange of money from hand to hand. It's a third-party exchange. It is a temporal exchange. That seems to be totally fine. No one seems to have any quarrel with that. And I just don't think there's that big of a difference, in my humble opinion, from people that pay for it with money and the people who pay for it with wasting their time, taking him on useless dinner dates, knowing that there's not an emotional connection, or any number of things that I have witnessed people do for companionship. Generally, it goes a certain direction, and I'm sure if you've existed on the planet, you can take a wild guess as to know which direction it goes. But either way, I just don't think there's that big of a difference between the act of paying for it directly with money versus paying for it indirectly with money or your time, which, again, is also kind of money. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not making an argument beyond that. I just think it is interesting to think that one seems to be just accepted and the other one is frowned upon. Perhaps they both should be frowned upon, or they both should be accepted. I would rather frown upon both, I think, than to readily accept both, because they both, it's not really the way I don't think it was intended. But I don't know. Who am I to say, really? It's just my opinion. But anyway, it's another one of my hot takes. So I just think that it's kind of an advanced form of prostitution is, taking people out on dates and, going on a walk or something with the sole intention. There's no, you can try to be coy about, she's nice. No, we all know what the game is for you, buddy. And I don't really, I don't buy it that there's not a ulterior motive here. So it's unfortunate that that seems to be the reality for people that, the other thing is it's not a fixed price either. It's a variable price thing. And just like in the illicit version of the act, there are certain people are more expensive than others. So I don't know. It's That's just another one of my hot takes. I just don't think, comparably, there's not a huge difference in my opinion. So, anyway, do with that what you will. Yeah. So on to my last hot take, at least on, I guess in this round of them, because I'm sure I'll have another set of them later. VPN companies that shill, VPNs, NordVPN, SecureVPN, These Nuts VPN, whatever. There's 10,000 bajillion VPN companies that all claim that they're doing great stuff, and it's unfortunate that the technology has been obfuscated by advertising. And as you can tell, I'm not a huge fan of advertising, or just passive investing. And there's a lot of things I don't seem to like about the way the economy and business works. But unfortunately, I have no control over any of that because I am not the president or a gajillionaire or God or whoever. Anyway, VPN companies, what they're advertising is, you can secure your traffic, and your ISP doesn't know what you're doing. So you don't want telco or whoever spying on you. Use VPN company. First off, the protocol of the internet. Again, a quick little lesson here for anyone who's unfamiliar. The protocol of the internet. There's many protocols, but the one that you're probably most familiar with, maybe you've heard before, or maybe you can see this in your browser. If you go to https ://www.google whatever, the S in HTTPS means that it is encrypted. HTTPS means it is encrypting connection. That doesn't mean that your ISP doesn't know that you're going to Google. It knows that you're going to Google, but it doesn't know what's on the page. It doesn't know what you're typing in. It doesn't know anything other than the fact that you visited this URL. Now, if the URL has information that you put in it, like, if you went to a certain, illicit website, your ISP knows that you went to the website, right? But maybe it probably doesn't know what you searched in the website or what specific things you were doing on the website. I mean, again, if the website's really insecure and the URL parameters aren't really hidden that well, then maybe they could figure out something beyond that. But for the most part, a lot more. It's not like you're literally naked online and everything you do, every mouse click, everything is being tracked. More accurately, that's actually being tracked by your browser. So Google is probably tracking all that, which is not your ISP. So you have other concerns there if you're worried about all your mouse strokes and what you're typing in, all this other stuff. So, but that aside, the VPN companies promise that they're, we don't share anyone's data. We do all this and do that. Here's really the heart of my hot take. VPN companies are double extortion companies. So it's double extortion because, one, they are extorting you for your money because you pay for the VPN. And little known fact, a lot of the VPN companies are owned by advertising companies. Or even if they're not owned by advertising companies, what is to stop? Let's say I'm a billionaire. Let's say I have $1 billion, and there's a VPN company that's it's worth $50 million or something. I just buy the VPN company and all the data that they get. Now I have access to everyone's data because I just purchased the entire company, and now I can just sell your data. And so now not only do I have paying customers that have paid me for protecting their data, I also can just sell their data to advertisers. So now I get both ends of the stick. So that's literally double extortion. Now they might come. A VPN company might say, well, we don't keep logs and we don't track our users. And again, if I bought the company, I could do whatever the fuck I wanted with it. And do you think the companies are looking out for your best interest such that they're going to say, hey, we don't want you to purchase our company at 2 times markup? No, get that money out of here. No, the company exists to make money. So if some clown like me comes along and decides to buy a VPN company, I can just sell the data that I get. And then it's literally double extortion. And that's also assuming that they're not already selling your data, because again, like I said, my original take was that I think VPN companies double extortion. They're probably already selling your data. So, because really all you're doing with a VPN is shifting the burden of trust from a ISP, a big, the people that apparently, can see everything you're doing online, which again, it already isn't true. You're shifting the burden of trust from them to NordVPN, which again, if I just bought NordVPN or Google bought NordVPN, Google can do whatever it wants with the data now that it just bought it. Or, maybe it's probably owned by, an advertising company. So again, they can do whatever the hell they want with it. And you think they're going to like look out for the best interest of some clown paying them like $6 a month or something. It's like, oh, I pay them. That means it's got to, no, they're just extorting you for money and for your data. So it's literally double whammy. So I'm not saying there aren't good VPN companies out there. I just think people are being victimized by not knowing what the hell a VPN is, or how it works. And it's unfortunate that companies are taking advantage of that to sell something that people don't even need. And selling peace of mind, which is unfortunate. Instead of just selling like knowledge about what the hell they're doing or how it works, they prey on the ignorance and use that to their advantage. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. But anyway, yeah, that's my hot take. I think VPN companies are literally just double extortion companies. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm sure there are like, ones that are better than others. I'm not saying that they're all purely evil, but there's no way of knowing, or they have no if they're after money, which they probably are, they have no reason not to just go both routes, because they can. What, you think they're not going to lie? They're not lying to you, like, or there's nothing stopping them from doing anything. They can do whatever they want, especially when it comes to once they have all your data. If they get some big billionaires offering to give a bunch of money, they're gonna, they're not gonna think twice about that. But anyway, yeah, I think VPN companies are literally just double extortion companies. So, yeah, so whatever. All right. Let's see. Here, interesting. I guess while I'm on the, actually no, I want to talk about this. So there is a growing testament, and again, I don't know how much of this is just some kind of internal bias or what, but there is a growing percentage of people that are self-proclaimed, or you can consider them doomers in some sense. Maybe I give off doomer vibes sometimes, because I probably do. And there's times where I probably have doomer, views on things, where I'm very pessimistic. And maybe that's all the time. I don't know. Again, self-awareness is difficult, but I would like to think internally, at least, I hold out slivers of hope for certain things, even though if I might overtly say or speak in ways that are very, very pessimistic, I still have some internal optimism, either that somebody is going to do well, or I'll do something good or something, such that I'm not, it's not all doom and gloom. But anyway, people that are to a fault, like doom and gloom, or they, everything is bad, they're totally screwed, from birth, they were destined to do nothing and suck at everything. They're short, fat, ugly, stupid, all of it. And a lot of these are self-imposed tags. I'm not calling them short, fat, and stupid. They're just running around proclaiming, "Well, I'm 5'6", or I'm whatever, I have bad genetics, or something." I mean, there are people with really bad. There's always somebody worse than you. But that's in itself is a horrible argument, right? Oh, there's always somebody starving, so you should be thankful that you got to eat dirt or something. That's equally as dumb of an argument. But I'm talking about in terms of like a perception about statistical anomalies, right? So if you believe that fate or luck has placed such a burden on you in your existence that it doesn't, you shouldn't do it, you should just give up, right? You should just be doomed, it's all over. I got screwed by the genetic lottery. Genetic lottery is a thing, right? I'm not going to deny the fact that people are born with huge advantages. It's not fair. It'll never be fair. There's nothing that anyone can do to make everything fair all the time for everyone. So some people are just screwed. I'm sorry. Where you live, where you grow up, even things that people don't really think, like, oh, you can just work hard. Working hard has many components of genetic. So it's not like some people are less genetically wired to work hard. And as much as you scream at them, telling them, oh, just work hard, everything will work out. That in and of itself, not only the fact that working hard is kind of a, like, what the fuck does that mean, right? But that in and of itself is also has inbuilt genetic characteristics that make it easier or more difficult to work hard, period. So it's easy for someone who, is genetically predisposed to work hard, or someone that let's say someone is good at reading and they like reading. It's like, well, I didn't used to like reading when I was a kid, but now I really like reading. You just gotta keep reading. Some people just aren't wired to do that. They aren't wired to read that much. They don't like doing it. They can't. It's incredibly more difficult for them than it might be for you, even if at one point you hated it or something. So same with working hard. Oh, you gotta work hard. You gotta work at it. Some people it's not that fucking easy, right? If it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it. And some people tend to apply this in a way that kind of excuses them from doing anything. Think about it. If you had the worst genetics possible, every possible thing, every way in which you could have terrible genetics, you got them. Okay. And you really have an excuse to do nothing, right? This guy can't work hard because he's got the worst work ethic genetics ever. This guy is dumb as a rock. Doesn't matter how much, whatever. Suppose that there's a human that exists in this, to this extent of a statistical anomaly in terms of how poorly they are wired to do anything, or, genetically predisposed to the 0th degree, like nothing. So that in and of itself is a statistical anomaly. The person, whether they're, diagnosed themselves or are socially diagnosed as useless, they are a statistical anomaly. Now, that wasn't fair. That's obviously not, it's too bad. But just because they have, in theory, an excuse to not do anything and because they suck at everything or are not, statistically nothing is in their favor, right? Anything they try to do statistically would not be in their favor. They try to play basketball, not in their favor. They try to be a writer, not in their favor. They try to do advertising, not in their favor. They try to be a salesman, not in their favor. Statistically, they are at odds against everything, technically. So then what, right? Okay, let's assume we have this person. Well, we just tell them, oh, it's cool. You can just sit on your ass and do nothing. Why? In my eyes, if we can acknowledge that there was a statistical anomaly in the unlucky direction, perhaps then we can at least hold out for the hope and acknowledge that there might be a statistical anomaly in the other direction, right? So the unluckiest person, genetically, in every sense of the way, might just be the clown that wins the fucking lottery. Now, I realize that isn't exactly a lot to live for if someone, yo, hold out, you might win the lottery, you get super lucky. Again, the statistics aren't really in your favor, but they weren't really that far, they weren't really that much against you when you started, genetically. And you got really unlucky in the wrong direction. So, it's not impossible that you get really lucky in the other direction, in the good direction. So, I don't know. I think there is, I sympathize with and understand the fact that for a certain number of people, they got screwed in a lot of ways that are out of their control. And it's especially frustrating if someone, with all these lucky ass things is, oh, just work hard, man, it'll all work out, you just work hard. I could punt that guy. But still, I still think that just because you have an excuse not to try, because you're bad at, you're not disposed to do something doesn't mean that you should do nothing, right? And, you know, if you really are that much of a statistical failure, then prove it, right? Fail at everything. And then, you know, at least you like failed and proved every, you know, whatever. But again, if you don't, you can't win the lottery if you don't play. And I'm not telling anyone to play the lottery because the actual lottery is a waste of time. But in this sense, statistically, again, if you were screwed by the genetic lottery, you need to at least play a lottery of some kind. You need to give yourself any kind of chance to get unbelievably lucky. It doesn't matter if you are 5'6" and trying to play in the NBA. You at least need to show up to the tryout and get spat on. You know, you got to at least do something. It gives you no chance if you just feel bad for yourself and run around and do nothing. So that's kind of where I argue with people who are excessively doomer in the sense that they're like, well, I have this perfect excuse to just not do anything for the rest of my life because I'm bad at everything. You know, I got screwed. I got bad genetics. Like, sure, right? But you lost the lottery there, but you have to play some other lottery to at least try to win, right? Because otherwise then just for my own benefit, I don't want to be, because you can't really talk anybody out of that mentality. But I don't know. I just think people that acknowledge the existence of statistical anomalies in one direction should acknowledge and understand statistical anomalies in both directions. So you're equally likely. I'm not sure exactly what the percentages are, but I'm sure you're a certain amount as likely to get struck by lightning as you are to win the lottery. Maybe those are, but is that ever a reason not to go outside, right? Just because you could get struck by lightning doesn't mean you should never go outside. Like you could get in a car crash and die immediately, so you just never drive a car, right? It's kind of the same logic, right? So you still need to go outside. Yeah, you might get struck by lightning, but you're never going to go outside. So I don't know. Don't buy a lottery ticket, but play a type of lottery in some way, because I don't want to hear people blubbering about they can't do this and that. And then again, I sympathize with it. I know that you, unfortunately, for whatever reason, suck at everything. It's too bad. I won't even argue with you that you're bad at everything, but it doesn't help me or you for you to not even go outside, right? Because you might get struck by lightning, or you're genetically predisposed to get struck by lightning. Fine, get struck by lightning, and then prove me wrong. So do it. So I don't know. I just think that there's a element of being a hypocrite in people that are overly pessimistic about everything and use that as an excuse to do nothing. So the way I am, I think I'm pessimistic about all that stuff, but I still will try, right? I'm the guy who will buy a lottery ticket, but the whole time I'll be like, this is stupid. They're never going to win this. This is just not worth it. But I'm still going to buy the ticket. You know what I mean? I'm still going to go out. Even if I swear I'm the guy who's going to get struck by lightning, or I'm 50 times more likely to get struck by lightning, genetically. I don't even know how you even calculate that. But I'd still go outside, right? So you still at least got to go outside, even if you do get struck by lightning. So I would blubber about it, but I would still go outside. So I don't know. I just think don't use a predisposition or a statistical anomaly against you as an excuse to be passive about things. I think you might as well fail confidently. Even if confidence isn't your genetic predisposition, right? You can make excuses for stuff all day. I'm not arguing the fact that you have a perfect excuse not to do anything, but I still think it's not helpful. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't, you're not making the situation any better. You have a good argument. I'm not going to argue against you, but you're wasting my time. Go outside. Anyway, so what were the founding fathers thinking when they made the Constitution? I just wrote that down. I haven't really thought about that much, but I think it's interesting to think about because we have a lot of discussion today in traditional politics or whatever about, our Supreme Court, I guess, they follow the Constitution, right? And they make all these laws and stuff based off the Constitution, or the founding documents. I'm sure there's like the Bill of Rights and other stuff. I don't know jack shit about legal stuff, so I apologize if this is insulting to any lawyers out there who know what the hell they're talking about. But it's interesting to think about the context in which these documents were forged, right? I think many people like consider them like, why would anyone write this into law? And I guess the one that I see out there is that doesn't really make any sense on the surface, at least in like a society like American society that we have today, would be like the Second Amendment, like the whole gun thing. And I guess in a lot of ways it doesn't make sense, because why does everyone, you look around today and you're like, nobody, you guys don't even need, what do you guys need guns for? Like, you're not fending off, rebels from the, your backyard. You don't, what do you even use the gun for? Like, you're going to shoot hay bales or something. But if you kind of take a step back and think about the context in which the founding fathers made the document. Again, I'm just going to speak very broadly in that because I don't know exactly what the independence papers or there's all this other shit. But they were separating from another power. And I think at that point they recognized because they had escaped, from in their perspective again, which you could argue for whatever, but they escaped from their perspective tyranny in England, and they did not. They recognized that they needed to revolt against. That's what they did. That's what the war was a revolt against a country that they had. It was like if we went to war against our own government, the people did. And I think them coming fresh out of that, they were like, all right, we're making this new country. We got to make sure that, if we ever, us up here ever, get as crazy as those fucks that, we're just messing with us, the people need to overthrow us kind of deal. And I think that is, to me, that's like the most like a saner argument in terms of why the fuck we ever needed guns. And it isn't. It again, in a lot of ways, doesn't really make any sense because, again, what the fuck do you need a gun for? But I think from the founding fathers' perspectives, they recognized that their government, so to speak, was a joke, was corrupt, and they needed to revolt and to go to war with them, which. I'm not proposing going to war, but I think it's helpful to understand and think about why they might have written that as like the Second Amendment. Like the first was, speaking freely. Like we felt like we couldn't talk, we couldn't say what we wanted to in this damn country, so that'll be the first rule of our new country. And the second one was, if we ever get all, if we ever go crazy, we need people to overthrow us or something. I'm not sure if they had that exact thing in mind, but it's still interesting to think about what type of mindset that they were in, right? I think they were in this, like, they were fresh off of, like, literally battling their own country, right? Killing the people that they were just in the same, like, that they're just separated from. So, like, all right, well, we need to not do what we just did, right? So, because they say the same thing about like, even like children growing up in their parents, they very easily recognize the like problems that their parents had, right? So if like, a parent didn't spend a lot of time with their kids, the kids that grow up to be parents then know that that's like they stress that as important, very very important in their with their kids, but then of course they also like they don't think about what their parents did right. So I think, for thinking about what's fresh on the mind of these founding fathers, it was like, okay, what do they do wrong? Okay. One, I couldn't talk, I couldn't say whatever I wanted. So that's, that needs to be really important. And then, two, we needed to, kind of be able to, to mess them up, if, to pick up a pitchfork and go after them if I felt like things were going the right way. And so I think framed in that way, it's it's easier to see like why the hell they might have done certain things or written certain things like into our law. And I'm not saying it should be followed as closely as it is today, like it's taken as gospel that each and every word, I think there's some amount of, they wrote it with some amount of ambiguity in mind, knowing that, they're going to have to interpret this, for a while. But I think it's like, it's more of guidelines than it is, actual rules. Quoting Pirates of the Caribbean. But yeah, I just think that might be what they were thinking when they did it. We're like, all right, well, what did I hate about the country I was just in? All right, this, and then I forget all the rest of them are, but that's what they hated about them. I'm sure there are things that they might have ignored, or the stuff that came in later that they might have actually liked about it. I think one of them was like about undue taxes or something, because that was originally why they didn't like things, was there was a bunch of undue taxes. I'm not a history buff, if you can't tell. I don't know the first thing about it. I was a terrible student in history, arguably a terrible student all around, but still, either way. I just thought it was interesting to try to get in the mindset of people, because I think people too often just go like, well, they're old as hell, they're stupid. And yeah, there's an argument there, to be fair, they didn't exist when, there was, internet porn and anime girls. That didn't exist. And, we can't, it's difficult to see the correlation, but I think if you try to, kind of, walk a mile in their shoes, it kind of makes more sense, what they were coming off of and why they might have done certain things and written certain things in the law, especially early on. Like, I think the order of them is what, kind of gets me. Like, the first thing is free speech, which obviously I think free speech is super important, but, if you were tasked with setting up a government, you might have other things on your mind, right? It wasn't even like free food or something. It was like, no, I need to say whatever the hell I want. You can't tell me I can't say this. So it's like, it's kind of a, I think if you task people with, hey, create rules of a new government from scratch right now, what would be the first thing that they would do, right? I'm sure some would just emulate whatever the Americans did, but either way, I think to a lot of people, saying whatever you want wouldn't be the first thing on there. It'd be like, everyone's got to, we live by love. Everyone's got to love each other. Like, some shit like that, but whatever. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what just other people have, about their first ideas, their first, what's your first law, if you're making a new government or a new, country or government from scratch. But I don't know. And I wrote on here, like, what would I do if I were president? That's like hypothetical. And to be honest, I don't know. I've been, comfortably exited from many avenues of the public sphere. So I don't really know what is going on in most of the places. I hear about a lot of things through second and third layer like sources. So I'm pretty much not up to date I'm not an informed citizen by any means. I don't know. I think there has been there's a lot of problems, right? There's always a lot of problems, right? But it's hard to know whether or not there are like more or less problems than there were, 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 200 years ago or, back in ancient Greece or whatever. Because you kind of you hear these quotes from these people who, are long dead, but see these quotes and you're like, well, that kind of applies now, It's like, it's about the quotes about like the youth, about like, oh, the youth are all promiscuous and whatever. And even like back in the days where they were still burning witches and stuff, the old people are still bitching about the young people. So part of me thinks there's an element of that will, never change. But I think it'd be really stupid to think that, history will repeat itself always unconditionally, meaning that, well, because, back in my day, it was, the calculator was going to take over everything, and now it's just AI. AI is just, it'll be the same as a calculator or the printing press or something. I don't think we can go about comparing technologies in that way, only because growth in a lot of metrics has been exponential, whereas used to be proportional or linear. And I think the most emblematic way of saying that cleanly is that people that lived 80, 100 years ago, they raised their children in a for a world that was very similar to the world that they had lived in, and the world that their children lived in were similar enough to the world that they lived in. An easy way of saying this is that you were a farmer. You lived on a farm. You owned a farm. There was 10 kids, whatever. This was back in 1880 or something like that. And you were raised on a farm. You were taught farm stuff, to be a farmer, making food, doing your thing, right? And when you grew up, you were a farmer, right? That was your thing. You ran the farm, and yeah, it was different. Maybe they came out with new farm equipment, or they had some number of new farm gadgets or strategies or something. But it's still kind of a lot of the basics were intact, right? The basics of you gotta till the land and do whatever. I mean, I don't know jack shit about farming either, but there's a good amount of similarities between the dad farmer and the son farmer, or the mom farmer and the daughter farmer, whatever. There just seems to be a growing gap, right? And it's fast, right? I guess the extent at which it is is different from the prior generation is quick, and I think that is kind of the scary part, right? To think that even just the technology that we use is so inconceivably different than our parents. How frustrating it is to deal with boomers that mess around with these that don't know how to download an app, and it's the easiest fucking thing on the planet. And then in 20 years, I hope to God it's not, but it'll be some Zoomer running around with these using these configuring these VR goggles in some way. But I just think there's going to be it's vastly different. It's a vastly different world that the children of parents are growing up in versus the parents themselves grew up in. And I think that again, there are kind of arguments made both ways, but I still think the exponential growth or exponential change, not even growth, exponential change is the worrying part. I don't think, I think it's much more different than it has been different in the past. Like the differences before were inconsequential to the differences of late. So, I don't know. I guess only time will tell. I can be any armchair psychologist and tell you what I think is going to happen, but ultimately it's a fucking guess, right? But yeah, I totally forgot what I was thinking about, but either way. Oh, I guess what would I do if I was president? That's right. I don't know. Right now I'm big on free and open source software, so I would just try to dismantle some of these bigger tech companies. I think big tech companies are going to be a big problem we're going to have to deal with. I think you can draw similarities, but there's not really any similarities. There's not really any, metaphors kind of fall apart in a lot of ways when we talk about modern technology and modern problems. As they say, they require modern solutions, but I guess that would be, without going crazy in terms of in detail about what I would do if I were president. I would try and just reduce the power and break apart some of give people more options to do stuff. I guess I don't know. I'll expand on that later, because I think there's a whole argument to be made around, is decentralization of any kind, right? I don't mean it's Web3 technology, blockchain is decentralized. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the difference between, small aggregated communities in different geographical locations to now, every town is megacorp gentrified town USA, right? Everywhere's got a McDonald's. Everywhere has a McDonald's, a Burger King, and a Wendy's, right? And you have choices, right? You have choice between McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's. But what about Mom's Burgers, right? Or the farm people's burgers, right? They don't even have the burger shop anymore. There's And some people are like, well, it's just, it's progress. The food's cheaper and it's going to be, we have healthy options too. There's Panera Bread or something. And again, there's kind of a whole rabbit hole to go down on whether or not, X is better than Y. But in terms of, a centralization of power in terms of, and that doesn't mean there's just one person or one entity in power. It just means generally there are fewer, right? So instead of gajillions of small businesses and things, there are, you get the choice between Wendy's and McDonald's. It's like, that's, how much of a choice is that really, right? I think about even just like vendor lock-in with different, cloud providers or something. Everyone used to run their own servers. I used to you just buy a server box and you run it in your house. But now you have to you only get you get Google, AWS, or Microsoft, right? You got to pick one, right? And it's like, whoa, is there not like a, mom and pop version of like a server? I guess I can either be the fucking weirdo that runs it on a box in his house, or I have to, shell out money to Google or Microsoft. I have choice, but that's not really a choice, right? It's not like the choices of old, right? So I don't know. There's and you could make, oh, well, it's cheaper. You can do this option. But, even there's people that would pay a premium to not have to be a part of a huge system like that. But I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said on the increasingly oligarchical look and feel of modern businesses. There seems to be fewer and fewer options for fewer and fewer things, right? It's kind of the illusion of choice versus actual choice, right? It's like, oh, you can get a purple, blue, or yellow Gucci handbag. It's like, well, what if I don't want a Gucci handbag to begin with? What if I wanted, something else? I have to pick that. It's like, well, you can make your own, but you know what I mean? I don't know. It's I don't know. It's an interesting discussion, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.